Chapter 1251, Hair Mistress Battle. Chapter 1251, Hair Mistress Battle. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. These are just a few immortal Gu, so what? Xianxia spoke in a profound voice, as long as our plan succeeds, all your losses can be compensated. Being able to let go is the mark of a wise person. Moreover, we are not just abandoning them senselessly, instead we are leaving them behind to confuse the enemy and get some precious time for ourselves. Bai Ningbing snorted, "Why do I feel like you are intentionally weakening my strength? You are thinking too much. The enemy is outside, you can also choose to stay behind and personally control this Gu formation to help us delay the enemy." Xianxia glanced at Bai Ningbing. Bai Ningbing's eyes flickered with sharp light, before finally nodding, "I shall go with your plan then." It was not that she did not want to fight by herself, but facing such a powerful Fang Yuan, she did not have any confidence in winning. Northern Plains, Snowy Mountain Blessed Land. Ninth Peak. Central Continent's group of 5 immortals were plotted against by Hair Mistress, they were all wrapped around like cocoons by her blue hair. What killer move is this? My immortal essence is rapidly being consumed. Ah! Uez suddenly shouted, his whole body suddenly burned with bright flames. But the fire was actually not able to burn the blue hair, instead, large amounts of water vapor emerged from the hair, drenching Uez. My fire is earth furnace fire, even melting rank 7 Gu material only is a matter of minutes, but it actually cannot burn even a single strand of this hair. Uez was extremely shocked. Haha, it is useless. My move is blue hair constriction, the longer the time taken to activate it, the stronger it becomes. Ever since old ancestor Shui who began refining fortune rivaling heaven immortal Gu, I have been activating this immortal killer move without stopping. Just think of it and you will know how long a time it has been. Hair Mistress lay down on her bed again, laughing heartily. Moreover, I did not completely lie to you. Snowy Mountain Blessed Land is indeed already covered in a super Gu formation, my battle strength has reached rank 7 in here, while all of you have been weakened. Surrender obediently and allow yourself to be captured, maybe you will still have a chance for survival. Humph, you are too simple-minded. Right at this time, an illusory shadow flew out of a blue cocoon. The hair cocoon was not damaged at all, but this phantom figure had strangely passed through the cocoon. The figure shortly turned from phantom to solid, it was none other than Spirit Affinity House's rank 7 Gu immortal. Bu Zhenzi. Hair Mistress's expression sank, so there was a phantom path Gu immortal, no wonder you can escape my blue hair constriction. While she spoke, a huge amount of blue hair shot out from the ground, hard as needles, supple as snakes, and shot towards Bu Zhenzi. Bu Zhenzi smiled brightly, "You are still too inexperienced to be able to hurt me." He again turned into phantom form, this time entering another blue cocoon. The Gu immortal inside this cocoon was Zhao Lianyun. Right now, she was activating her immortal killer move to guard against the cutting and strangling of the blue hair. Bu Zhenzi came to her side suddenly, giving Zhao Lianyun a fright at first. "I will count to 3, deactivate your defenses and follow me." Bu Zhenzi put his hand on her shoulder, as he instructed this. Zhao Lianyun thought, if I stop my defensive killer move, would I not be shred into pieces by the blue hair? However, she thought again, Bu Zhenzi would absolutely not deceive her, and decided to believe in him. At the next moment, she let go of her defense and stopped activating her defensive method, the blue hair immediately moved towards her, but Zhao Lianyun had already turned into phantom form. Then, both phantoms rushed out of the blue hair cocoon. Hair Mistress finally paled with fright. Bu Zhenzi cultivated phantom path, it was normal for him to be able to turn into phantom. But it was unusual to be able to turn others into phantom as well, and even being able to affect those he had turned into phantom. Phantom Path Gu immortals were very few in number, Bu Zhenzi was no doubt an exceptional talent among them. It was because of these methods that Spirit Affinity House was confident in him being able to ensure Zhao Lianyun's safety. After Bu Zhenzi rescued Zhao Lianyun, he repeated the same thing, rescuing the other three. The 5 Central Continent Gu immortals then started to surround and attack Herr Mistress. However, even with 1 against 5, Herr Mistress was not at a disadvantage. Blue hair coiled around her whole body, dancing around like snakes and at times, standing up like a wall, as it dissolved all the offenses of the 5 Gu immortals. She clearly has only rank 6 cultivation, but actually has rank 7 battle strength. I have also found there are indeed traces of a super Gu formation in Snowy Mountain Blessed Land. Get out of my way, let me attack. Mu Linglan moved away from the 4 immortals, and activated his immortal killer move. Howl. Wolf howls resounded, 3 giant light blue water wolves appeared from thin air and charged towards Herr Mistress while brandishing their teeth and claws. Herr Mistress's hair wall was broken again and again, and was unable to stop the water wolves' offense. She quickly rose up and broke out of the ceiling into the air. The 5 Central Continent Gu immortals immediately flew up to give chase. Herr Mistress soon fell into a passive state. Although her battle strength was rather strong, Zhao Lianyun's side had the numerical advantage. Herr Mistress's offense lowered as she started to defend more, most of her blue hair was destroyed, the remainder had curled up into a ball that firmly protected her. This immortal killer move is truly terrifying, it can absorb and release energy. A portion of our immortal killer moves are absorbed by it and released back against us. Even my snake wave stab cannot pierce through this hairball. Mu Linglan was solemn. Bu Zhenzi suddenly transmitted his voice to Mu Linglan. Mu Linglan's expression shook, let's try again then. He accumulated energy for a while before suddenly pointing out his right index finger towards the continuously revolving blue hairball. At the next moment, a water snake half a foot long flew out from his fingernail. The small snake was lifelike, completely formed from water and was deep blue in color. The water snake was extremely fast, but right now, under Mu Linglan's control, it intentionally flew slowly. At this moment, Bu Zhenzi suddenly used his immortal killer move, turning the water snake into phantom. The water snake was easily able to pass through the hair ball and appeared in front of Herr Mistress. Herr Mistress turned pale from the shock, quickly activating her second defensive killer move. But the water snake turned into solid, breaking open Herr Mistress's defense and piercing straight into her heart. Herr Mistress gave a sharp screech as her soul escaped out of her body. The hairball detonated, a huge number of short hairs shot out everywhere like sharp arrows. Central Continent's 5 immortals could only concentrate on defending themselves, and let Herr Mistress' soul escape. We won. Herr Mistress is dead, only her soul is left now. Shi Zhengyi was extremely excited. Good teamwork. Bu Zhenzi and Mu Linglan looked at each other and smiled. These 2 rank 7 Gu immortals had made the biggest contributions in defeating Herr Mistress. First, Bu Zhenzi rescued them from the cocoons, then Mu Linglan was the main attacker. Yu Yizi, Zhao Lianyun and Shi Zhengyi were only supporting figures. The battle ended, the 9th peak turned silent. What should they do next? The 5 immortals discussed and soon came to a consensus. They would first retreat and wait for the other forces from Central Continent to arrive. With just the 5 of them, how could they go against the whole of Snowy Mountain? Forget about other Gu immortals, just old ancestor Xuehu alone was an opponent they could not beat. However, the 5 immortals found they were unable to leave this place. Snowy Mountain Blessed Land was a public blessed land, the whole blessed land was pieced together, its defense could not compare to a normal blessed land. But there was a super Gu formation arranged here, even Bu Zhenzi's phantom transformation method was of no use. Damn it, we don't have a formation path Gu immortal among us. If we had a formation path great expert, maybe we could decipher the profundities of this Gu formation. Mu Linglan wrung his hands in disappointment. There had been multiple formation path Gu immortals specially mixed in among the Central Continent Gu immortals sent. Unfortunately, because of the unexpected collapse of the spaceless tunnel, not even one formation path Gu immortal was among this group of 5. The 5 Central Continent immortals helplessly found that even though they defeated Hair Mistress, her soul escaped, while they were trapped in the 9th snowy peak, unable to escape from this super goo formation. What should we do? They looked at each other, feeling great pressure. How could they not feel pressure? This was the enemy's base. The rank 8 Gu immortal old ancestor Shui who could crush them with just his fingers. Did you all find something strange? We have already been here in snowy mountain blessed land for a while now, but no one has actually come. Uez suddenly spoke. The other 4 immortals had the same feeling. It is indeed strange. We have invaded snowy mountain blessed land and battled Hair Mistress. The commotion was huge, but besides Hair Mistress, no one else has appeared. Our fight with Hair Mistress was not a short one, but no other Gu immortals came to reinforce her. Old ancestor Shui who did not appear, it could be because of a rank 8's pride. But the other Gu immortals should have allied and besieged us. There is no way they are holding back now. Mu Ling Lan, Bu Zhenzi and Uez pondered over this, and felt it was odd. Right at this time, inside Zhao Lianyun's immortal aperture, Love Gu suddenly activated. A powerful immortal Gu aura rose from Zhao Lianyun's body. Such a majestic aura caused the other 4 immortals' expression to change. What a powerful aura! Is it a rank 9 immortal Gu? I remember this aura appeared in the spaceless tunnel as well. So it was you who protected us. Mu Ling Lan, Uez and Shi Zhengyi stared at Zhao Lianyun, dumbfounded. Zhao Lianyun, however, did not have control over her body. Her eyes had rolled back, showing her whites, her legs were a foot above the ground, her head was slightly raised, and she was emitting chuckling sounds. Don't disturb her, this is Love Gu's power. Bu Zhenzi quickly spoke. Love Gu. Spirit Affinity House's signature immortal Gu was actually brought here by Zhao Lianyun. The other 3 immortals were extremely shocked. Bu Zhenzi smiled bitterly, as he explained to them. After a while, Zhao Lianyun woke up. I know all the secrets of this Gu formation now. The 4 immortals were joyous. This was because of Love Gu. Mu Ling Lan's eyes were wide open. Zhao Lianyun nodded. Quickly explain it to us. Bu Zhenzi urged. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1252, Fate Reversing Sacrificial Refinement Formation. Chapter 1252, Fate Reversing Sacrificial Refinement Formation. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. This formation is called Fate Reversing Sacrificial Refinement Formation. It was set up by Sun Ming Lu, using over 10 immortal Gu. The crucial point is it irrigates the water of Reverse Flow River, thus it has extremely astonishing power. Zhao Lianyun explained in a heavy voice. Love Immortal Gu had activated of its own accord, using up large amounts of immortal essence in Zhao Lianyun's immortal aperture. It had all sorts of effects, and this time, it had let Zhao Lianyun directly obtain the origins and history of the fate-reversing sacrificial refinement formation. Reverse Flow River. That legendary Reverse Flow River. Uez's eyes opened wide. Right, it is the Reverse Flow River recorded in the Legends of Renzu. Zhao Lianyun nodded. The Legends of Renzu stated, Dang Hun Mountain, Luopa Valley and Reverse Flow River were the 3 obstacles inside the door of life and death. Back then, to save his eldest son, verdant great son, Renzu had traveled to Obsession Death Domain but had failed. Renzu could only pass through the 3 obstacles, to revive once again. In the end, Renzu had passed Dang Hun Mountain and Luopa Valley, but had failed in Reverse Flow River. Reverse Flow River is a secluded domain of heaven and earth. Who could have thought it was in old ancestor Shuehu's hands? Bu Zhenzi sighed. Mu Ling Lan spoke. Supposedly, in the past, thieving heaven demon Venerable had relied on ghostly concealment to enter the door of life and death, and moved Dang Hun Mountain and Luopa Valley out, but was unable to take Reverse Flow River. I never expected Reverse Flow River to be taken by someone as well. Mu Ling Lan was a supreme elder of Spirit Butterfly Valley. This ancient sect was most skilled in information gathering, so Mu Ling Lan knew many secrets. This group of immortals soon accepted this fact. Since Dang Hun Mountain and Luo Pa Valley could be taken away, it was not that strange for Reverse Flow River to appear as well. The main thing now is how to break this fate-reversing sacrificial refinement formation. Bu Zhenzi emphasized. But Zhao Lianyun shook her head. It is almost impossible to break this formation. Even a rank 8 Gu immortal will be trapped and not be able to extricate themselves. Although there are no rank 8 immortal Gu used in this Super Gu formation, this Super Gu formation perfectly utilizes Reverse Flow River, which allows it to display endless might. Zhao Lianyun explained slowly while the other 4 immortals listened speechlessly, no longer having the intention to break the formation. This Super Gu formation has completely remodeled Snowy Mountain Blessed Land, using the 15 snowy peaks as the formation cores to form a solid defense. If a Gu immortal charges into the formation, they would be forcibly sent to different snowy peaks depending on their cultivation. If it was a rank 7 Gu immortal, they would be sent to the snowy peaks with rank 7 Gu immortals to fight. If it was a rank 8 Gu immortal, they would be sent to Old Ancestor Xuehu. Herr Mistress' words had some truth and some lies, and were not completely nonsense. The fate-reversing sacrificial refinement formation could indeed amplify the strength of the Gu immortal in the formation cores. It could let rank 6 Gu immortals have rank 7 might, and while it could not let rank 7 Gu immortals have rank 8 strength, there would still be a tremendous boost. Moreover, this fate-reversing sacrificial refinement formation also imitated Regret Pool, having some mysterious abilities of time path. The truly wicked thing was any Gu immortals that died within the formation would be considered as sacrificing their life to this formation, helping Lady Wanshou, who was in the center of the formation, refine Mahongyun. No wonder when we killed Herr Mistress, her body and immortal aperture turned into ashes and disappeared. Although her soul escaped, her soul must have already dispersed completely due to this formation. Who could have thought Sun Ming Lu could actually construct such a level of Super Gu formation? Such a powerful formation, even the 10 great ancient sects might not be able to match it. Sun Ming Lu is Northern Plains' publicly recognized number 1 formation path grandmaster. According to rumors, he has an unyielding nature and highly values ties of friendship. He did not associate himself with the demonic path. Earlier, Old Ancestor Xuehu had put down his pride and invited him repeatedly, but Sun Ming Lu did not yield to such an expert. In the end, he was touched by Old Ancestor Xuehu's love for Lady Wanshou, and helped Lady Wanshou construct a refinement path Gu formation. But from the looks of it now, creating such a wicked refinement path Gu formation, this Sun Ming Lu is not a good person. The Central Continent Gu Immortals discussed. That means, if we go out of this snowy peak, we will be forcefully separated and have to fend for ourselves. Bu Zhenzi asked. Zhao Lianyun nodded. It should be the case. We appeared here because of Love Immortal Gu's strength. Love Gu was a rank 9 Immortal Gu, its might surpassed the whole Super Gu formation, so it could make the 5 Gu Immortals appear at the 9th snowy peak together. However, right now, Love Gu did not activate. This group of 5 would be separated by the Gu formation once they stepped out of the range of this snowy peak. Bu Zhenzi frowned deeply. This was extremely bad news. He was given the task to escort Zhao Lianyun, to protect Zhao Lianyun as well as Love Gu. But now, this Super Gu formation would separate them, and there was nothing he could do. How about this, Fairy Lianyun, enter my immortal aperture. I don't believe this Super Gu formation can influence my immortal aperture. Bu Zhenzi hesitated before making up his mind. The immortal aperture of a Gu immortal was their greatest secret, and normally they would not let others enter. However, Bu Zhenzi knew the significance of this matter and decided to make a sacrifice, letting Zhao Lianyun in. They could only do this because Zhao Lianyun did not have a true immortal aperture, hers was a phantom aperture. Heavenly Court's phantom aperture had advantages as well as disadvantages. A disadvantage was that it could only store immortal essence, Gu worms and will, but could not be managed and developed like normal immortal apertures. It also had to be replenished at set intervals of time and could not last forever. An advantage was that it could store immortal Gu of any rank, just like Zhao Lianyun currently could store love Gu, and not have to worry about this rank 9 immortal Gu bursting the immortal aperture. However, after attempting it, Central Continent's Gu immortals found that they could not even open the entrance to their immortal apertures. Clearly, Sun Minglu had considered this issue when he constructed this Super Gu formation. This flaw was not in the Gu formation. The Gu immortals fell into an awkward situation. They had gotten rid of Hair Mistress, but they themselves were trapped here. But there was good news, they did not need to worry about any reinforcements or the rank 8 old ancestor Xuehu making a move against them. Because in this Super Gu formation, each snowy peak lord guarded one peak, and could not leave it. Any rank 8 Gu immortals whom invaded Snowy Mountain Blessed Land could not fight rank 6 or rank 7 snowy peak lords, and could only fight old ancestor Xuehu. This rule restricted old ancestor Xuehu as well. Old ancestor Xuehu could not make things difficult for rank 6 and rank 7 invaders. The reason for this rule came from reverse flow river. Humans aspired to move up the social ladder, while water flowed downwards due to gravity. These were rules of the world. With rank 8 as the high point, and rank 7 and rank 6 as the low, the higher ranked Gu immortals could only look for those of similar level or fight with stronger Gu immortals. In the whole Gu formation, the first snowy peak was the highest point, the invaders must move on to other peaks and could not leave. This was the might of reverse flow river. The legends of Renzu recorded that even Renzu was not able to successfully emerge from the river. But this reverse flow river was, after all, only a secluded domain of heaven and earth. Sun Minglu used the plentiful Dao marks in this secluded domain to create the fate-reversing sacrificial refinement formation. And as the main parts of the formation, old ancestor Xuehu and the snowy peak lords were also unable to go against this rule. If it was not reverse flow river, and was one or more other immortal Gu, the Gu immortals could control the formation by themselves and create an environment favorable to themselves, instead of being in such a rigid situation like now. But regardless, even though there was this flaw, Snowy Mountain Blessed Land was a solid fortress, easy to defend but hard to attack. With this Gu formation helping him, it was no wonder that old ancestor Xuehu felt extremely confident and did not hide the commotion of refining fortune rivaling heaven Gu. Even if he wanted to hide it, he might not necessarily be able to. The crucial thing was that he was not afraid of Gu immortals attacking. Instead, he was even waiting for them, because the Gu immortals who died in the Gu formation, whether it be enemies or his own side, they would turn into fuel which would help him refine fortune rivaling heaven Gu. Since that is the case, we might as well stay here and wait for the response from our reinforcements. Bu Zhenzi suggested. This suggestion was approved by the other Central Continent Gu immortals. They were now familiar with the details of this Gu formation, but it was not of much use. Zhao Lianyun frowned, but she did not argue. After all, Ma Hongyun was at the first peak, that was the center of the Gu formation, used to refine Gu. Even if Zhao Lianyun and the group charged through the many snowy peaks and reached the first peak, they would have to face the rank 8 Gu immortal old ancestor Xuehu. Black Heaven, Luck Suppression Heavenly Palace. We have discovered a small group. South Desolation Immortal breathed out deeply. Ah. Where? Yao Huang asked. They actually ran right inside Snowy Mountain Blessed Land. Strange. South Desolation Immortal was uncertain. Although he knew Central Continent Gu immortals had entered the spaceless tunnel, he was not aware that an unexpected mishap had occurred in the spaceless tunnel. He had thought he could find the majority of Central Continent's forces, but he only discovered a small group. However, this discovery included Zhao Lianyun, an important person. Love Immortal Gu. The reason South Desolation Immortal woke up was due to this. Snowy Mountain Blessed Land. Yao Huang frowned, not all the Central Continent Gu immortals have appeared. South Desolation Immortal shook his head, maybe this is their plan of luring enemies, but whether it be rank 8 Gu immortals or immortal Gu houses, there are none of them. Yao Huang's frown became deeper. Just like when Fang Yuan confronted Ing Wuxia, he did not take out the upper extreme heavenly eagle, but it had instead caused Xianxia to be even more apprehensive. The situation of Yao Huang and South Desolation Immortal was largely similar. If the Central Continent Gu Immortals had all appeared, they would be able to use all their strength to deal with them. However, only 5 people appeared, which instead caused South Desolation Immortal and Yao Huang to not understand what the Central Continent Gu Immortals were planning. Was this some kind of sinister plot? Are they brewing some special plan? South Desolation Immortal thought about it before deciding, let this group of Central Continent Gu Immortals fight with Snowy Mountain Blessed Land first. The important thing is still the larger portion of the Central Continent group. Until this larger portion appears, we will just watch the events from the side. Okay. Yao Huang nodded, but was guessing inwardly, Lord South Desolation is aware about the situation inside Snowy Mountain Blessed Land. This is not Luck Suppression Heavenly Palace's ability. Does our side have an insider in Snowy Mountain Blessed Land? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1253, Courting Death. Chapter 1253, Courting Death. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Eastern Sea. The sword dragon kept on breathing out sword light. Rays of white dragon breath struck the Gu formation, causing the Gu formation to truly sway. Something is not right. Xianxia and the others are not fools, their immortal essence expenditure while activating the super Gu formation is far greater than mine. But they are actually maintaining the stalemate without retreating and letting me attack. Do they have some other plan? Fang Yuan was attacking furiously, although he was not able to break the formation, he firmly held the initiative. Thoughts were surging in his mind and had not stopped even for a second. They should know I have the upper extreme heavenly eagle. Are they not afraid of me using the upper extreme heavenly eagle to penetrate space and enter the formation? Or is this Gu formation a trap to deal with my upper extreme heavenly eagle? Or could it be that Sixth Hair has already learned from Langya Land's spirit that my upper extreme heavenly eagle is only an egg, thus they are not afraid? Wait. Fang Yuan suddenly stopped attacking, and dived inside the sea. While under the sea, he waited for a reaction from Xianxia's group while activating an immortal killer move. Chi Luck Sensation. They are indeed all inside the Gu formation. Fang Yuan relaxed, it seems I was thinking too much. Fang Yuan continued to attack the Gu formation, but he gradually discovered the Gu formation was only passively defending and there were no signs of Xianxia, by Ning Bing or the rest. Fang Yuan suddenly had a thought and stopped attacking again. Right now, he was holding the initiative, and he could choose freely whether to attack or not. On the other hand, the enemy was defending and in a very passive situation, not knowing when Fang Yuan would attack, and they had to maintain the Gu formation all the time, which consumed their immortal essence. Fang Yuan stopped his offenses and besides maintaining the sword dragon transformation, he did not need to use up any immortal essence, thus his expenditure was even lesser. The silent confrontation lasted for an hour. Fang Yuan gradually realized the fishy situation. The Gu formation was like a deep pool, and no commotion was visible inside. The enemy was actually firmly deciding on maintaining this stalemate with Fang Yuan. Xianxia seems to have some other motive that requires the safe environment created by the Gu formation. No matter what, I cannot let him continue smoothly, I should quickly take action and destroy the formation. It seems I can't continue to hide this trump card, I need to use it early. Xianxia's plan had come into effect and Fang Yuan's Chi Luck sensation was misled. But Fang Yuan still had sharp judgment regarding the situation, he firmly acted without hiding any trump cards. If it was earlier, Dragon Breath would be his strongest weapon, but it was different now. At the next moment, a dragon roar resounded over an enormous surrounding distance. Ancient battle formation, omnidirectional travel. Xianxia's vision suddenly changed, and when his vision was stable, he was already at the regional wall. This was Eastern Sea's blue water regional wall, it was deep blue, and was like a giant screen that connected heaven and earth, expansive and boundless. The 4 Gu immortals, Tai by Yunsheng had entered He Lu Lan's immortal aperture, standing in front of the vast and mighty regional wall were as small as ants. Once they entered, the ancient battle formation could not be used and they could only move by themselves. Because using Gu worms or immortal killer moves in the regional wall would shake their immortal apertures, the ancient battle formation would cause this even more and the backlash would be extremely big. Just as they were looking at the regional wall, Ing Wuxie's expression changed. Bai Ningbing also subconsciously looked back, her eyes letting out sharp light as she stared at the direction they came from. The Gu formation has been broken. Bai Ningbing spoke in a heavy voice. So quickly. He Lu Lan was also moved. She thought of when she was trapped, and compared it to how quickly Fang Yuan had broken the formation. Even if she was inside and he was outside, it clearly showed his terrifying battle strength. Did he use the upper extreme heavenly eagle? He Lu Lan quickly thought of a possibility. No. Bai Ningbing shook her head. Fang Yuan had broken the Gu formation, but did not discover anybody and was not able to obtain any Gu worms. Once the Gu formation was broken, the Gu worms would all self-detonate. How could Bai Ningbing leave behind resources for the enemy? Although the losses were huge, the scene when Fang Yuan attacked had been shown to them. In a battle between Gu immortals, information was a crucial and very important factor. Bai Ningbing, Ing Wuxie and the group naturally would not let go of such a good opportunity to gather information. Fang Yuan used a completely new killer move, it is probably a recent creation of his. Ing Wuxie spoke. This killer move is terrifyingly powerful. Bai Ningbing's expression was heavy. Unless we have a method which targets it, we won't be able to last a few breaths of time even if we combine our strengths. What? He Lu Lan took a sharp breath, even the silent and expressionless Shi Nu was visibly terrified. Ing Wuxie knew the situation was far from good, he had arranged the formation and planned to delay for time. Although his plan succeeded, he had not expected it to delay him for just such a short period of time. They would have to spend some time in passing the regional wall. The crucial thing was that the nature of the sovereign immortal body made it so that the sovereign immortal body could travel through regional walls freely without any restriction. Ing Wuxie naturally already knew about this. The Super Gu formation was forcefully broken. Fang Yuan has discovered we are not there. He will definitely use Qi Luck sensation again and search for us. If we enter the regional wall, even if I consider the best case scenario, according to Fang Yuan's previous speed, he will certainly be able to catch up to us. We would then have to fight with him inside the regional wall. So, should I not enter this regional wall? Ing Wuxie began to let out cold sweat, his heart felt like it was pressed under an enormous weight. Ing Wuxie judged the situation, he clearly knew his side was already on the brink of life and death, even though they were not under attack right now. If they did not handle the following situation properly, they would be in danger of dying. And whether they could get out of this danger or not would depend on his plan. The heavy pressure weighed down on Ing Wuxie's shoulders. This did not concern only his survival, it also concerned the Gu immortals beside him. Alright, Ing Wuxie did not care about the safety of the Gu immortals beside him, he did not even fear his own death. But if he died, who would save the demon venerable's main body? Shadow Sect was in ruins currently, he was the only hope left. How could this be? How could Fang Yuan's battle strength rise to such a level in such a short time? He cannot even use Wisdom Gu, how did he make deductions? Could it be that he gained some powerful wisdom path methods? Deducing immortal killer moves could not be done in a matter of days. Fang Yuan's trump card was too abrupt, catching Ing Wuxie off guard. I have already used up the method to confuse the enemy. If we enter the regional wall, we will definitely have to fight Fang Yuan. Our side is at a great disadvantage. Ing Wuxie was very clear on this, using immortal killer moves in the regional wall would cause backlash, but Fang Yuan did not have such a restriction. The 5 regional walls were the perfect places for him to fight. Even rank 8 Gu immortals might be in a bad situation. Because when rank 8s entered the regional walls, they would face much more restriction than rank 6s or rank 7s. Naturally, rank 8 Gu immortals moved through Black Heaven or White Heaven, and would not stupidly travel to and fro through the regional walls. If Xianxia persisted on entering the regional wall, undoubtedly, he would be taking a huge risk. Fang Yuan had shown his trump card, even without counting the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle. Just this trump card alone made Xianxia feel he could not go against Fang Yuan. No, there is still Bai Ningbing. Xianxia suddenly had a thought, secretly glancing at Bai Ningbing. He immediately felt the alliance was an extremely good decision. At the same time, he also felt some emotions. Who could have thought he would actually have to rely on Bai Ningbing's strength at this moment? This was truly, what goes around comes around. The trajectory of fate had countless changes. He, the Grand Xianxia, would actually have to rely on Bai Ningbing, who had been arranged as a pawn before. But how much strength does Bai Ningbing have? It has not been long since she inherited Bai Xiang Grotto Heaven. Xianxia did not have much confidence as he thought on it. He then thought, but if don't enter the regional wall now, we can only wander around in Eastern Sea. Omnidirectional travel is also not a method that can be used repeatedly and requires some time before it can be used again. If so, we will sooner or later be found by Fang Yuan. More importantly, this is Eastern Sea. All the Gu immortals on my side are of other regions. Xianxia's physical body was a Western Desert immortal zombie. Bai Ningbing was a Southern Border Gu immortal. Tai Bai Yunsheng and He Lu Lan were from Northern Plains, and Anew was from Central Continent. There was not one Eastern Sea Gu immortal. Foreign region Gu immortals would be marginalized in other regions and even be hunted. Although this was not too common in Eastern Sea, one should not forget that Fang Yuan was an Eastern Sea Gu immortal. Sovereign immortal body. It could completely blend into any region and become a Gu immortal of that region. When the time comes in which both sides battle, and Eastern Sea Gu immortals appear, and Fang Yuan had the upper hand, it goes without saying that the Eastern Sea Gu immortals would help Fang Yuan. Few people would provide help when one desperately needed it, but there were many who would add fuel to the fire. So if we stay in Eastern Sea, we might not only be facing Fang Yuan, but other Eastern Sea Gu immortals as well. Xianxia smiled bitterly. After experiencing many setbacks, he had matured immeasurably. Thinking through all elements comprehensively, it was incomparable to the past. Moreover, Fang Yuan still has the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle. We must go to Northern Plains. Snowy mountain blessed land is our only hope. We can use the rank 8 Gu immortal to kill him. After considering everything, Xianxia finally made a firm resolution and flew straight into the regional wall. Several hours later, a sword dragon flew over from far away, trying to enter Northern Plains. This sword dragon was Fang Yuan's transformation. Everything was like Xianxia expected. After he broke the Gu formation, he did not discover any trace of Xianxia and the rest. How would Fang Yuan not understand that the other side had made a ploy to escape? Fortunately, he had not hesitated to expose his trump card and forcibly destroyed the Gu formation, otherwise, he would still be in the dark. It seems that although Qi Luck sensation can detect the target, it can also be misled. Then this target I am sensing, will it also be false? If it was false, Fang Yuan could do nothing about it. After all, this was his only clue. But if it was real? Hee. I can get rid of you all in the regional wall. All of you are actually traveling in the regional wall in front of me. You are courting death. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1254, Love Becomes the Problem. Chapter 1254, Love Becomes the Problem. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Waiting was often long and difficult to endure. Shi Zhengyi was unable to sit still, pacing back and forth in the large hall. Yu Yizi was sitting cross-legged on the ground with his eyes closed. He spoke with dissatisfaction. Can't you rest properly? Don't move back and forth. Shi Zhengyi yelled, I have already rested enough. Sigh, how long do we have to wait? Until the other group arrives. Bu Zhenzi spoke. If they don't come, do we continue waiting forever? Zhao Lianyun frowned, she was also somewhat impatient. When fighting with Hair Mistress, the 5 immortals were all wholeheartedly focused and did not feel anything. Now that they were cooped up in here, every second became unbearable. Zhao Lianyun was feeling even worse, like a fire was burning her heart. Bu Zhenzi frowned and was about to speak. But at this moment, Zhao Lianyun spoke again, you must have some thoughts. All of you have seen and even personally gone through the final moment in the spaceless tunnel. Do you think that perhaps the other Gu immortals have died there? Impossible. Shi Zhengyi was the first to refute it, as he glared at Zhao Lianyun with anger. His father, Shi Gu, was among those Gu immortals. Zhao Lianyun's words were like predicting his father's death. Zhao Lianyun ignored Shi Zhengyi's attitude, continuing, you are all aware that we came here because of Love Gu's power. But the other Gu immortals did not get such help. Even the immortal Gu houses were on the verge of destruction at that time, let alone Gu immortals. If there are no reinforcements, how long do we wait for? The other Gu immortals had slight changes in their expressions. They actually had such worries, but it was just that they did not take the initiative to speak up. Now, Zhao Lianyun had brought up this topic, Bu Zhenzi thought and spoke in a deep voice, your speculation is not impossible. But even if there are no reinforcements, Central Continent's 10 great ancient sects will send a second group of Gu immortals. Zhao Lianyun continued, can the second group of reinforcements reach here? You have all experienced the difficulties and dangers we faced on our way. Can Spaceless Tunnel still be used a second time? Even if it can be used, can we be at ease using it again? Bu Zhenzi firmly stared at Zhao Lianyun's eyes, and spoke solemnly, you need to believe in our sect, Zhao Lianyun, you are Spirit Affinity House's fairy, the sect is your biggest backer. If you don't believe in even the sect, who can you trust? Zhao Lianyun sharply sensed Bu Zhenzi's displeasure. But she disregarded it, and continued, even if the sect sends reinforcements and they reach here, what about the time? When will they arrive here? What price will they have to pay? Will there be mishaps again? This is Northern Plains, not Central Continent. Bu Zhenzi was silent. He was unable to retort to Zhao Lianyun's words. Zhao Lianyun let out a breath of air, in short, I don't want to wait any longer. You have to wait even if you don't want to. Bu Zhenzi frowned in anger. He stared at Zhao Lianyun, both did not retreat and were fixated on their own stance. Zhao Lianyun's eyes were soon filled with mist, she moved her sight and looked the other way, if, during this time, Hong Yun is killed, what would we do? Can you make a guarantee? In truth, Zhao Lianyun was feeling more and more afraid as she waited. What she was afraid of was not her own safety. Instead, under the situation where the reinforcements were far away, waiting could not solve the problem. If during this time, Ma Hongyun was harmed by old ancestor Xuehu and successfully used as a Gu material to refine fortune rivaling heaven immortal Gu, this would be Zhao Lianyun's lifetime regret. In the future, when she recalled it, she would be filled with extreme regret. Regret that she had once been so close to Ma Hongyun, charging into snowy mountain-blessed land, and fate gave her a perfect opportunity but she did not take it. The blurry view of the first peak could be seen from the 9th peak. It was such a short distance, but she just kept on waiting here, losing the final chance. Zhao Lianyun did not want to see such a thing happening, that result would make her feel sadness and pain that was worse than death. The other 3 immortals did not find it convenient to meddle in the quarrel between Zhao Lianyun and Bu Zhenzi, after all, it was Spirit Affinity House's internal matter. Bu Zhenzi retorted, even if you don't want to wait, can you save Ma Hongyun? Even if you are able to defeat other Snowy Peak Lords, don't forget that you will have to face old ancestor Xuehu in the end because Ma Hongyun is kept at the first peak. I know. Zhao Lianyun clenched her fists, her voice becoming sharper, but you said as well that before old ancestor Xuehu, we will have to deal with the other 10 or so Snowy Peak Lords. We can get rid of them first, in any case, rank 8 Gu immortals cannot act against us in this Gu formation. With this, once our reinforcements arrive, we can directly attack the first peak, saving time and energy. Bu Zhenzi was furious, his expression turning dark. Then I will speak frankly, this super Gu formation amplifies the enemy's power while weakening us. If we leave this place, we will be forcefully separated by the formation and transported to other snowy peaks. Will each of you be able to fight them alone? In the previous battle, Mu Linglan and I led the main attack. What help can you 3 rank 6s bring? Bu Zhenzi spoke bluntly, but the 3 rank 6 Gu immortals were not able to retort because what he said was a fact. Zhao Lianyun lowered her head in silence for a while, before she raised her head and said, "Then I am going to use Love Gu again." Bu Zhenzi scoffed, "Who do you think you are? Will Love Gu listen to you and allow you to control it?" Back then, even Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was not able to refine Love Gu. That is because he did not receive the acknowledgement of Love Gu. Zhao Lianyun retorted. So what you are saying is that all the other fairies of Spirit Affinity House were useless. Not even one of them was able to control Love Gu. Bu Zhenzi sneered. How would I know without trying? Zhao Lianyun was persistent. Bu Zhenzi laughed, and was just about to speak when Zhao Lianyun had already taken action. She called out in her heart, "Love Gu, oh Love Gu, please display your might, take the 5 of us to another snowy peak." Love Gu did not even budge, as if it was dead. Zhao Lianyun was unwilling to give up, she continued to pray and beg in her heart. Bu Zhenzi noticed Zhao Lianyun's stillness, and was about to speak, but right at this moment, Love Gu's aura rose from Zhao Lianyun's body and, at the same time, bright radiance covered Zhao Lianyun. The other 4 immortals were extremely shocked, all of their eyes were wide open as they stared fixedly at this sight. Mu Linglan could not help but say, it seems like the time when we left Spaceless Tunnel and appeared at Snowy Mountain Blessed Land, it was this aura and also the light. Continue, don't stop. Shi Zhengyi urged. At the next moment, the light moving around Zhao Lianyun seemed to act on its own, as it spread towards the other 4 Gu immortals. Like this, we can charge our way towards the other snowy peaks. Maybe it can directly take us out of Snowy Mountain Blessed Land. Shi Zhengyi was hopeful. Bu Zhenzi's mouth was wide open, unable to say a word at this moment. The shock he felt was much more intense than the others. Love Gu cannot be controlled, this is absolutely true from history. Even Giant Sun Immortal Venerable was left without options. But why? Why? Why is Love Gu so obedient in Zhao Lianyun's hands? Could it be that Zhao Lianyun is the strongest fairy in the whole history of Spirit Affinity House? No, it is more likely because of her status. She is an otherworldly demon. Could it be that otherworldly demons and Love Gu complement each other? Others cannot control Love Gu, but an otherworldly demon is an exception. Countless thoughts welled up in Bu Zhenzi's mind, like surging waves in the sea. While he was thinking, the space behind him suddenly ruptured and turned into a fist-sized black hole. The black hole let out an unimaginable suction force, forcibly dragging in Bu Zhenzi. A person as strong as Bu Zhenzi, a rank 7 Gu immortal, was unable to do anything and was directly dragged in, disappearing from the spot. At the same time, the same thing happened to other Gu immortals. In the blink of an eye, this large hall was empty and silent. We have left the 9th snowy peak. Bu Zhenzi held feelings of shock, as he sized up his surroundings the moment his feet landed on solid ground. This was similarly inside a large hall. But this hall was different from the previous one. The previous hall was decorated and beautiful, and seemingly emitted feminine aura, while this hall was majestic and grand, with a masculine air emanating from it. Which snowy peak is this? Bu Zhenzi had this thought. But shortly afterwards, his expression suddenly changed, as he shouted, "Damn it!" He found that he was the only one in the whole hall. The other 4 Gu immortals were nowhere to be seen. He sobered himself up, looks like I was overthinking it. Zhao Lianyun might be an otherworldly demon, but how can she control Love Gu? Love Gu is still unreliable and has countless abilities, who knows when it will act up. I was sent here, what about the others? Where are they? It would be best if they were together, Zhao Lianyun would be slightly more safe then. But if Zhao Lianyun is alone? Bu Zhenzi did not dare to continue thinking. Right at this time, an inky black shadow crept near him from the ground and silently attacked him. Bu Zhenzi's instincts set off warning signs, he quickly jumped back and dodged. But the shadow was like a viper, extremely fast, and within a breath of time, it had pounced towards Bu Zhenzi's feet. Turn phantom. At the crucial moment, Bu Zhenzi used his specialty as a phantom path Gu immortal, turning into phantom form. The shadow helplessly passed through him, reaching behind Bu Zhenzi. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1255, Zhao Lianyun's Death. Chapter 1255, Zhao Lianyun's Death. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Clap clap clap. A series of claps could be heard. It is indeed Phantom Path. A Gu immortal showed himself. This person was tall and well-built, with residues of a beard on his face. His eyes had no white color, being completely black. The most eye-catching thing was he had a skin-like black cloak draping behind him. Bu Zhenzi's pupils shrunk slightly as he recognized this person. Since the Central Continent Gu immortals had come to save Ma Hongyun, how could they not have information on snowy mountain-blessed land? So it is Shadow King. Bu Zhenzi lightly spoke, pointing out the other Gu immortal's identity. At the same time, he also realized he was now at the seventh peak of snowy mountain-blessed land. Previously, this seventh peak's owner had been Xianxia. However, after Xianxia died, a demonic path Gu immortal joined of his own accord, and it was this person. In fact, snowy mountain-blessed land was a place which Northern Plains demonic path Gu immortals were attracted towards, especially those demons who were wanted by Huangjin tribes, needing to find a reliable backer like old ancestor Xuehu. Perhaps there were also some Gu immortals, wanting to prolong their lives, who joined snowy mountain-blessed land because of Lady Wanshou. Naturally, because old ancestor Xuehu was refining fortune rivaling Heaven Gu, it caused the morale of the members of snowy mountain-blessed land to drop. Shadow King looked at Bu Zhenzi and laughed, "You guys from Central Continent truly came running into death. It isn't certain who dies yet." Bu Zhenzi sneered. "Is that so?" Shadow King suddenly turned into a pitch-black shadow, pouncing towards Bu Zhenzi. Rumble, at the next instance, muffled explosions resounded from the seventh snowy peak. The large hall shook, large amounts of snow that had accumulated on the mountain rolled down, forming a small avalanche. Different from what Bu Zhenzi had expected, Zhao Lianyun was not alone but also was not with all the other immortals. 12th peak. Both sides had already started fighting. "Oh. Two little ants, see how I step on you and send you to death." The 12th snowy peak lord called out, and stepped fiercely with his right leg. The 12th snowy peak lord had transformed into a giant with the head of a bull and body of a human, his two legs had also turned into thick and firm bull legs. Bam! The bull leg stomped, creating a deep pit. The peak lord had powerful might, the two Central Continent Gu immortals quickly retreated. One was Zhao Lianyun, and the other was Xianxia. Zhao Lianyun was slightly pale, the enemy was a giant while she had limited battle experience, this no doubt created strong mental pressure on her. Xianxia had rolled away on the ground, barely dodging the bull leg, he was clenching his teeth, damn it. He turned around and stood up from the ground, take this. Leloleloleel. Xianxia opened his mouth, flicking his tongue like a fast mechanical spring. With every flick, a crimson sword light shot out from the tip of his tongue at an extremely fast rate. Zhao Lianyun was speechless for a moment. Normal people could only curl up their tongue, some might not even be able to do that. It was the first time Zhao Lianyun had seen someone's tongue actually contracting and darting forward like a mechanical spring. The crimson sword light was extremely sharp, the 12th snowy peak lord had transformed into a giant which had thick skin and a sturdy physique, but the crimson sword light opened up holes all over his body. So painful. The 12th Peak Lord cried out in pain, and raised his arms to protect his head. For a moment, he could only defend and could not attack, all his momentum from before was suppressed. So powerful. Zhao Lianyun praised. Naturally, this is my vital immortal Gu, Sword Tongue Gu. Shi Zhengyi flicked his tongue, sending out crimson sword light while also replying to Zhao Lianyun. The strange thing was that his voice was clear even then. Are you a sword path Gu immortal? Zhao Lianyun asked. No. I cultivate information path. Shi Zhengyi replied. Speaking while still fighting, so you are so strong. Zhao Lianyun had a new level of respect towards Shi Zhengyi, this person who had thick eyebrows, large eyes, and was somewhat lacking in brains. I have sworn to defeat all the evils and demons in the world. Shi Zhengyi looked quite pleased and smug. Don't be so happy. The 12th Peak Lord roared. Boom! An overwhelming aura suddenly erupted from his giant body. The majestic aura shot everywhere, creating a huge air wave. Not good, it is an immortal killer move. Defend! Shi Zhengyi and Zhao Lianyun defended with all their might, but it was of no use. The air wave was extremely powerful, the two were like a pair of small toys, easily sent flying. With the 12th Peak Lord at the center, the floor tiles of the hall started flying all around, turning the whole scene into chaos. Thump thump, Zhao Lianyun and Shi Zhengyi crashed into the walls, throwing out mouthfuls of blood. Their whole bodies were suffering from intense pain, their internal organs were bleeding and their bones were fractured. With one attack, the 12th Peak Lord had completely turned around the slight disadvantage, and now had the upper hand. This is a chi path killer move. How could it be so powerful? Zhao Lianyun and Shi Zhengyi endured the pain and struggled to stand up. The two were sent flying and were quite far from each other right now. How was it? Did you like my, Zhao Danyo's, immortal killer move, Rising Heaven Bull Chi? You are young and also powerful. Unfortunately, my battle strength is amplified in this formation, and it has risen to rank 7 level, how can you possibly compete with me? Ha ha ha. Zhao Danyo laughed loudly, his laughter filled the hall like a huge wave. Watch as I stomp you to death. Suddenly, Zhao Danyo stopped laughing, gazing malevolently at Shi Zhengyi. He bent his waist and knees and suddenly jumped towards Shi Zhengyi like a small hill. Rumble. A loud crashing sound echoed as Zhao Danyo pressed Shi Zhengyi to the ground. Shi Zhengyi. Zhao Lianyun cried out in shock. This was a horrifying sight, being crushed by the heavy Zhao Danyo, would Shi Zhengyi not be turned into meat paste? But the next moment, Zhao Danyo's back protruded up. Shi Zhengyi stood up from below, lifting Zhao Danyo up with his hands, and with a yell, he actually pushed Zhao Danyo away. This was like a small rabbit pushing away a lion. This unimaginable scene caused Zhao Lianyun to open her eyes wide. What? My transformation has the weight of a desolate beast bull, you actually pushed me away. Even Zhao Danyo found it unbelievable. Shi Zhengyi was coughing up blood, after pushing away Zhao Danyo, he knelt down on the ground, extremely tired. This is the power of justice. Shi Zhengyi spoke with difficulty. Don't speak, you are coughing up too much blood. Zhao Lianyun called out. Bullshit justice. Zhao Danyo pulled himself together, and charged towards Shi Zhengyi again. He was extremely huge, but right now, his speed was like the wind, not fitting with his body size at all. In the blink of an eye, Zhao Danyo was right in front of Shi Zhengyi. Ah, look at the power of my justice. Shi Zhengyi shouted, and actually collided head-on. Bam, a muffled sound echoed. Zhao Lianyun felt pain in her body just from hearing the sound. Shi Zhengyi was like a small ball that was thrown far away, coughing up large amounts of blood. Then, like a broken sack, he fell to the ground, his blood dyeing the path red. I will kill you. Zhao Danyo was just about to rush forward and give a fatal blow to Shi Zhengyi, but he had just stepped forward when he found his whole body was tied by a bright silver chain. At the other end of the chain was Zhao Lianyun. She had already been preparing to activate her immortal killer move. Unfortunately, real battle was different from practice, especially this intense atmosphere which caused Zhao Lianyun to fail twice in activating her killer move. But it was fortunate that Shi Zhengyi had stalled for time, and Zhao Lianyun finally succeeded on her third attempt. Immortal killer move, life-locking silver chain. Cough cough, thank you, this killer move is really beautiful. Obtaining precious time for a breather, Shi Zhengyi crawled up from the ground, coughing up blood in between his words. Don't speak, you are still coughing blood. Zhao Lianyun was worried for him. Hehe, you don't understand, I cultivate information path, by continuing to speak, I can heal my injuries. The louder I shout, the more powerful my attack becomes. Shi Zhengyi spoke of the reason. Little girl, you are annoying. Zhao Denyo roared and exerted strength from both of his arms, trying to break the chains on him. But no matter how much strength he used, he was unable to break these chains. Since it's like this. Zhao Denyo gave a malevolent smile, activating the killer move Rising Heaven Bull Chi. Boom! An intense explosion shook the hall. The surging air wave erupted once again, and this time, it sent the ceiling of the hall flying. Clang clang. Crisp sounds echoed as the silver chain broke into countless pieces. Before these chain fragments touched the ground, they turned into specks of silver light and disappeared completely. Zhao Denyo used his main killer move to destroy the life-locking silver chain, and was free now. On the contrary, Zhao Lianyun and Shi Zhengyi were struck by the air wave again, both coughed out blood as they fell to the ground, unable to stand up. Damn it. Shi Zhengyi wanted to climb up, but his whole body was on the verge of breaking apart. As for Zhao Lianyun, she had already fallen into a stupor. Her injuries were worse than Shi Zhengyi's. Because life-locking silver chain was forcefully broken, Zhao Lianyun had suffered backlash, adding on Zhao Denyo's immortal killer move, her injuries had worsened. She had rank 9 Love Immortal Gu, but from the start of the battle, she had not seen Love Immortal Gu being activated. Love Immortal Gu could not be controlled, even if it showed its strength, it might not necessarily be the correct solution to the problem. Darkness. The stupefied Zhao Lianyun felt she was floating amidst boundless darkness. This is the feeling of death. So this is death. I must be the biggest failure of a transmigrator in history. I actually died at the hands of an irrelevant side character. Let me just go down like this. After I die, I won't have to feel so exhausted and anguished anymore. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1256, For the Sake of Love and Justice. Chapter 1256, For the Sake of Love and Justice. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. As she was thinking of this, Zhao Lianyun suddenly heard a sound coming from the darkness. This sound was calling out her name, Zhao Lianyun. Zhao Lianyun. Who? Who is calling for me? I hear my name. Why do I feel that this voice is so familiar? Ah, I remember, isn't this my voice before I lost it? Zhao Lianyun suddenly recalled a scene of the past. It was during the time of the imperial court contest. Zhao Lianyun's father had died and she was treated as a political chip for an arranged marriage. However, she went against this fate by relying on Ma Hongyun. In just a short while, she had turned from a wealthy young miss to an orphan. One day, Ma Hongyun brought her to a valley. Look, I found a good place for you. Ma Hongyun looked pleased. Zhao Lianyun gazed around, but when she discovered this was just a common small valley, her mouth uncontrollably twitched. What is special about this? Isn't it just a normal valley? There is not even nice scenery. What are you saying? Ma Hongyun's eyes opened wide. Valleys are very rare in northern plains. Here, let me teach you. Shout at the valley with your name and the valley will reply to you. Like this. Ma Hongyun took a deep breath, then yelled to the valley, Zhao, Lian, Yun. An echo soon came from the valley, Zhao, Lian, Yun. Zhao Lian Yun helplessly rolled her eyes. Foolish people are the happiest. What is strange about echoes, I truly haven't seen anyone as dense as you. Ha ha ha. Ma Hongyun rubbed his hair. Others have said I am an idiot. I am truly an idiot. How could I be as smart as Lady Xiaoyun? But, when I felt sad in my childhood, when I was teased by others and no one played with me, I used to run to the valley near my home, and shout at the valley. I call my name once, and the valley will reply back to me once. When I call again, the valley will reply again. It played with me, never abandoning or ignoring me. Unless my voice was not loud and clear enough. I saw you were not feeling happy recently. There is probably no one to play with you, right? I have to be beside the young clan leader and cannot accompany you all the time, so when you are unhappy, come to this valley and play with it. Zhao Lianyun did not speak. She looked at Ma Hongyun, who had an earnest expression. A feeling of pity rose in her heart. This Ma Hongyun is so silly, but he is not bad at heart. He must have lived a very sad life since a young age. Even now, when he works under young clan leader, he is scolded frequently. But I have never seen him cry in sorrow. He is always smiling the whole day. Forget it, let me play with you then. Thinking of this, Zhao Lianyun took a deep breath and called at the valley with her name. Ma Hongyun was so happy he almost danced when he saw Zhao Lianyun following his words. That's wrong, you should shout louder, be louder. Zhao Lianyun shouted once again. Ma Hongyun shook his head. You are still not loud enough, the valley can hear you only if you are loud. It is not responding to you now, because it is not able to listen to you. Zhao Lianyun took in a deep breath, and shouted with her loudest voice. Zhao Lianyun. The valley replied, Zhao Lianyun. Ma Hongyun laughed heartily. Zhao Lianyun also felt very refreshed. All her sadness seemed to have decreased and her mood also brightened. Zhao Lianyun. Zhao Lianyun. Zhao Lianyun. In the darkness, the voice shouted constantly. Zhao Lianyun, what are you doing? Don't be lost. Zhao Lianyun, you are not alone. Heaven and earth is with you. As long as you shout loudly, heaven and earth will hear you. Zhao Lianyun, wake up. There is someone who is still waiting for you to rescue him. That person once stood beside you, accompanied you to watch the stars, accompanied you to call out to the valley. Go help him. Go help him. He must be feeling lonely now, or maybe even afraid. Shout loudly, send out your voice, let him know you are coming. Let him know he has to persevere, let him know he has hope. Yes. I will save him. How can I fall here? Zhao Lianyun suddenly opened her eyes. She had woken up from her stupor. The moment she woke up, she found her whole body was burning with a pale blue light. This blue light was let out by Love Immortal Gu. Zhao Lianyun's injuries rapidly recovered, and her condition was soaring. The blue light also shone towards the surroundings. Zhao Dinyo retreated step by step, his face filled with horror. Ah, what is this light? It is heavier than a mountain. This aura, what immortal goo is this? Shi Zhengyi was similarly bathed in the light. He suddenly stood up, feeling inexhaustible energy within him. His injuries had already disappeared, and his condition had reached an unprecedented peak. Thank you, Zhao Lianyun, leave this to me now. All you evildoers, I will strike you down. Take my fist of justice. Shi Zhengyi shouted loudly. The louder he shouted, the more powerful his immortal killer move became. A giant fist of light rose up from his body and struck towards Zhao Dinyo. Boom! Like the roar of thunder, Zhao Dinyo's defensive methods were broken. A bloody hole appeared in his wide chest from which one could see the wall behind him. I. Zhao Dinyo's eyes gradually lost their luster, before he fell down. Bam! His body collapsed on the ground, no longer moving. Several breaths of time later, his body, soul and immortal aperture turned into pure energy that was absorbed by the fate-reversing sacrificial refinement formation. Justice prevailed. Shi Zhengyi raised his fist and yelled. Zhao Lianyun smiled from the side. Northern Plains, Licorice Regional Wall. Dragon roars resounded throughout the surroundings. Xie. Where do you think you are going? It was Fang Yuan in sword dragon form, who had finally caught up to Xie and the group, under Qi Luck Sensation's guidance. Xie and the group immediately turned around and faced Fang Yuan, their expressions extremely solemn. Xie had said Fang Yuan would catch up to them, so the five immortals were already mentally prepared for it and not panicked. Right now, they were waiting for the start of this vicious battle. The sword dragon roared, opening its mouth wide, revealing fangs that were sharp like spears and very ferocious. Its eyes were ruthless and cold, emitting bone-chilling killing intent. Without saying any nonsense, Fang Yuan directly charged forward. To kill. If you want to go against my lord, you must go through me first. The loyal Shi Nu took a step forward, standing in front of the group, and raised his right hand. A tall and thick rock wall immediately rose up and formed an obstacle. Boom boom boom. At the next moment, the rock wall was pierced through repeatedly. Fang Yuan had used his dragon breath. The extremely sharp rays of dragon breath shot forward and gathered into a rain of swordlight that pierced through the rock wall, moving towards the five immortals. He Lu Lan gave a cry, breathing out small fire birds from her mouth. These small birds could act on their own. They moved towards Fang Yuan's dragon breath. The fire birds collided into the dragon breath, turning into balls of flames that dissipated in the air. Angry bird? Fang Yuan was slightly surprised. This was clearly a fire path method. He had not expected He Lu Lan to use it. The external appearance of these fire birds made Fang Yuan think of blazing heaven demoness. Back then during the battle in Eastern Sea, Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunsheng, along with Shark Demon, Su Bai Man as well as the one-finger flow shark, were unable to beat Blazing Heaven Demoness. Blazing Heaven Demoness' immortal killer move, Angry Bird, had left an extremely deep impression on Fang Yuan. But the fire birds He Lu Lan used were different from the true Angry Bird. After He Lu Lan's Strength Path Immortal Gu were sent to Fang Yuan, she suffered from a lack of Strength Path Immortal Gu to support her battle strength. In Eastern Sea, she then chose to cultivate Fire Path, which was not complemented by the Strength Path Dao marks in her body. She possessed a Fire Path inheritance. When Blazing Heaven Demoness met He Lu Lan, she secretly handed her Fire Path inheritance to He Lu Lan. Blazing Heaven Demoness felt extreme guilt towards He Lu Lan, and thought of every way to compensate her. He Lu Lan received the Fire Path inheritance and had not cared about it originally, feeling she would not use it in her whole life. But who could expect the way events unfolded? Under strange coincidences, she chose to focus on Fire Path. Naturally, she did not have even a trace of Fire Path Dao marks in her. But she possessed all the immortal Gu of Blazing Heaven Demoness. This matter would have to be traced back to before the Battle of Etion Mountain. To refine Sovereign Immortal Fetus Gu, Spectral Soul had no choice but to sacrifice the whole of Zombie Alliance, using the countless immortal zombies as immortal materials to further the progress of refinement. Zombie Alliance was underneath Shadow Sect from its establishment, and was controlled by Shadow Sect. It was just that many immortal zombies did not know of this fact despite joining Zombie Alliance. Zombie Alliance had gone all out in establishing Super Gu formations to protect immortal zombie corpses. But in truth, this was a perfect excuse and a way to keep them in captivity. Using this chance, Shadow Sect assassinated all the immortal zombies. It did not matter if the dead apertures of the immortal zombies existed or not, but the immortal Gu in them were all safely stored. Northern Plains Zombie Alliance's immortal Gu were all still hidden in Dark Flow Giant City. Xie and He Lu Lan were far away in Eastern Sea, but there was still Sixth Hair in Northern Plains. Dark Flow Giant City was hidden in the depths of Earth Trench. Sixth Hair quietly sneaked in and used his methods to take away all the immortal goo of Blazing Heaven Demoness, sending them to Xianxia. After Xianxia refined them, he gave them to He Lulan. He Lulan already had Blazing Heaven Demoness true inheritance, and with the immortal goo as well, she could almost replicate all the methods of Blazing Heaven Demoness. Fang Yuan did not know of this before, but now that he saw these fire birds, he immediately had a pensive look. The sword-light dragon breath continued to be breathed out. Tai Bai Yunxing quickly acted and added the protection of cloud rings around the other Gu immortals. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1257, Ruthless Sword Dragon. Chapter 1257, Ruthless Sword Dragon. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Tai Bai Yunxing mainly cultivated Time Path, but man as before and landscape as before were traded to Fang Yuan, so he chose to cultivate Cloud Path. He already had a foundation in Cloud Path, and with Shadow Sect not lacking on Cloud Path true inheritances, the defensive method he used right now was quite good. However, after Tai Bai Yunxing placed a cloud ring around his allies, his expression turned pale. When Gu immortals used their immortal killer moves inside the regional walls, their immortal killer moves would tremor. Using the immortal killer move 5 times caused Tai Bai Yunxing's immortal aperture to tremor 5 times, inflicting huge losses. Interesting. Fang Yuan smiled sinisterly, his dragon body moved in a zigzag fashion, and lightly flew to the sky. Xianxia and the rest looked somber. In this regional wall, every movement of theirs was performed with difficulty, having to constantly resist the formless repulsion and attraction forces. On the contrary, Fang Yuan could move easily and freely. Fang Yuan flew high above, immediately gaining control of the situation. He looked down from above and moved around, breathing out dragon breath constantly. Sword light fell down towards the heads of the 5 immortals like rain. Defend, don't split up, we can't fight him alone. Xianxia shouted loudly, reminding everyone. Seeing the sword light falling towards them, Xianxia suddenly roared, letting out an incomparably sharp screech. Immortal killer move, Soul Howl. Soul Howl's power completely covered the sky, but did not affect the surrounding Gu immortals in the slightest, showing Xianxia's outstanding control. Fang Yuan's offenses were immediately suppressed. The sword-light dragon breath clearly stopped for a moment, before quickly recovering. Since I am going against Shadow Sect, how could I not have prepared against Soul Path attacks? Fang Yuan sneered inwardly. He was already mentally prepared. However, he did not have a method to protect his soul against Soul Path Immortal Gu, so he was hit by the attack and affected. But his soul's foundation was extremely robust. He was completely able to endure the attack of Soul Howl. It would not matter even if his soul was injured because he had Guts Gu. Damn it! Xianxia cursed while blocking the sword-light dragon breath. He knew Fang Yuan had Guts Gu. Guts Gu was only a mortal Gu, but it came from Dang Hun Mountain, and was beyond ordinary. A secluded domain of heaven and earth like Dang Hun Mountain had an enormous amount of Dao marks, the total surpassed even rank 9 immortal Gu. However, secluded domains of heaven and earth had scattered Dao marks, though they could be of the same type and closely linked together. While rank 9 immortal Gu were fragments of the great Dao, they could be controlled by a Gu immortal to bring out mysterious powers. Rank 9 immortal Gu and secluded domains of heaven and earth could not truly be compared and evaluated. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Sword light fell down like rain, the 5 immortals were stifled. There were traces of sword cuts everywhere on the ground. The 5 immortals naturally did not like being suppressed like this. The best way to deal with such a focused attack was to separate and dodge. But if they did that, Fang Yuan would have the chance to attack them separately. But the 5 immortals would not take being beaten down passively. Nu had finally finished his preparations as he activated an immortal killer move. Rumble. Muffled sounds echoed continuously, earth shook, a large hand made completely from soil and rocks rose up from the ground. The large hand spread open and slowly hovered above the 5 immortals' heads, protecting Xianxia and the others under its palm. The thick back of the hand took on the sharp dragon breath. Despite the large earth path hand being badly mauled and showing signs of being destroyed, He Lulan had finished preparing her killer move using this chance. She stretched out her right arm, her 5 fingers together with no gaps between them, as she thrust it at the sky. Boom! A burning crimson ray of light erupted from between her fingers, and with breakneck speed, it pierced through the whole large hand and rushed towards Fang Yuan. This immortal killer move was astonishingly fast, and it was concealed by the large earth path hand. If Fang Yuan was even the slightest bit inattentive, he would definitely be struck. However, this ray of fire did not hit Fang Yuan and was easily avoided by him lightly moving his dragon body. It actually did not hit. He Lulan's heart sank. 3 breaths future vision. He Lulan did not know that Fang Yuan had such a time path investigative killer move. Strange, He Lulan is a strength path Gu immortal and is using fire path methods, but she is actually not impeded by the conflict of Dao marks. It should be from shadow sex methods. After all, sovereign immortal fetus Gu was designed by spectral soul demon Venerable. He Lulan's efforts were in vain, and instead gave away some of her details. Soon, the large earth path hand collapsed, and the sword-like dragon breath continued to rain down. However, the 5 immortals were no longer as hurried before, each used their immortal killer moves to defend against the sword-like rain. Then how about this move? Let me see how you deal with it. Fang Yuan firmly held the initiative, easily using another immortal killer move. Time path, Year Beast summoning. Roar! A tiger-shaped Year Beast answered the summoning and appeared in the regional wall, helping Fang Yuan battle. Fang Yuan threw large amounts of mortal Year Gu, raising the morale of the tiger Year Beast as it charged towards Xianxia and the group. Xianxia felt bitter. The sword-like dragon breath was already difficult to cope with, now there was an ancient Year Beast worsening the situation. This Year Beast could similarly move freely in the regional wall. The reason was similar to the cloud beasts. The cloud beasts were life forms of white heaven and were not native to the 5 regions, thus they were not restricted by the regional walls. While the Year Beasts which lived in the river of time were similar. Allow me. Xianxia stepped forward, and used an extremely similar method. Soul Path, Soul Beast Summoning. In the past, Spectral Soul Demon Venerable had created Soul Path, thus Shadow Sect was most proficient in Soul Path. He Fan could think of summoning Year Beasts, how could Shadow Sect not have similar methods? Xianxia's method was extraordinary, summoning 3 ancient soul beasts at once. My soul beasts are not influenced by the regional wall, because they come from the door of life and death. Xianxia's complacency did not last long because he saw that Fang Yuan had already rushed forward. The sword dragon snaked around, flying extremely fast. It grabbed forward with its dragon claws, directly destroying a soul beast's head. Its tail whipped, severing the thigh of another soul beast. It breathed out, dragon breath pierced through the 3rd ancient soul beast. Fang Yuan's sword dragon transformation had outstanding battle strength. The main thing was that Fang Yuan also had Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable's immortal killer move on him, Ghostly Concealment. This made any soul beast unable to sense his existence. Thus, with Fang Yuan's battle strength surpassing the ancient soul beasts, and the soul beasts unable to sense him, Fang Yuan had huge superiority when fighting the soul beasts. These soul beasts could not even react before they were severely injured by Fang Yuan. Fortunately, soul beasts did not have a clear weak point on them, otherwise they would have been completely destroyed by Fang Yuan. But even so, the soul beasts had clearly thinned, becoming increasingly transparent. Xianxia's expression was unsightly, but he simply watched as Fang Yuan destroyed the 3 ancient soul beasts without making a move. Xianxia inwardly thought, it doesn't matter, even if you kill these 3 ancient soul beasts, so what? I can use the killer move again and summon another 3 ancient soul beasts. What is found everywhere in the door of life and death? Souls and soul beasts. But at this time, Fang Yuan suddenly gave up on attacking the ancient soul beasts and activated Sword Escape. Sword Escape Immortal Gu. Fang Yuan's speed suddenly erupted, leaving behind an afterimage in his original spot. Fast. 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 Tai Bai Yunxing could not react at all and was struck by Fang Yuan's claws. The cloud ring protecting him directly collapsed, his stomach was torn open and his large intestine spilled out. He did not die. Fang Yuan was surprised. He had wanted to use Dragon Breath. After all, the Dragon Breath was the most powerful weapon of his sword dragon transformation, but at the crucial moment, a layer of ice had sealed his mouth out of nowhere. Fang Yuan could not open his mouth, thus he chose to use his claws. But his speed was too fast and rushed, Fang Yuan could not use his full strength. As a result, most of the strength of his claws was offset by Tai Bai Yunxing's cloud ring, and Tai Bai Yunxing thus was barely able to survive. It is by Ning Bing. Fang Yuan exerted strength, forcibly opening his dragon mouth, breaking the ice on it. Fang Yuan looked back, his speed was too fast and right now, he was already a few li away from the 5 immortals. Bai Ning Bing was guarding in front of the 4 immortals, her icy blue eyes emitted cold light as she stared at Fang Yuan with no fear. Quick, quick! He Lulan grabbed Tai Bai Yunxing's leg and dragged him to the rear. Then, she sat down and used healing methods, but unfortunately, Tai Bai Yunxing's injuries were severe, and for the moment showed no signs of healing. Once a Gu immortal was injured, it was difficult to heal. Because of the conflict between Dao marks. Once Fang Yuan's ancient sword dragon transformation injured someone, it would leave behind large amounts of sword path Dao marks. This was very hard to endure for Tai Bai Yunxing's fragile human body. Oh, if I had man as before, it would not be so troublesome. Saying this, Tai Bai Yunxing fainted, his life hanging by a thread. This was after He Lulan used all her healing methods. Damned Fang Yuan, his true target was Tai Bai Yunxing. Ing Wu Xie's expression was ashen. He could see Fang Yuan's thought process. Fang Yuan was entangled against the soul beasts on the surface, but ever since the battle began, he had been searching for an opportunity. He had probably marked Tai Bai Yunxing as his target since the beginning. After all, Tai Bai Yunxing was the weakest among the 5 immortals. Always pick out the weakest enemy first. Tai Bai Yunxing cannot be counted on now. Ing Wu Xie's expression was heavy. How long had it been since they battled? There was already a casualty on his side, how should they deal with such a strong Fang Yuan? Ha! At this moment, Fang Yuan was surprised, feeling something wrong. He stretched out his dragon body, but astonishingly discovered that his dragon scales were covered by a layer of thin ice, who knows when it formed. Bai Ning Bing's gaze is strange. Fang Yuan immediately reacted. If we want to force back Fang Yuan, we need to first restrict his speed. Bai Ning Bing's eyes flickered with cold light. She had clear judgment of the whole situation. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1258, Fang Yuan vs 5, 1/2. Chapter 1258, Fang Yuan vs 5, 1/2. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Despite becoming an immortal just recently, Bai Ning Bing had some advantages over normal Gu immortals. First of all, she possessed one of the 10 extreme physiques, Northern Dark Ice Soul Physique, which was the best for cultivating ice and snow path. Similarly to He Lu Lan's Great Strength True Martial Physique, her Dao marks surpassed most rank 6 Gu immortals in the same condition. Secondly, she had become the owner of Baixiang Grotto Heaven. She obtained Baixiang's true inheritance, and had all the Gu worms left behind by Baixiang, among which were rank 7 immortal Gu as well. However, there were no rank 8 immortal Gu. Bai Xiang's status in history was slightly inferior to He Fan. But the joint forces of the 5 Xiang surpassed He Fan by a lot. Bai Ningbing's flaw was that she was not familiar with the Immortal Gu and the Immortal Killer moves. She often failed when activating them, which caused danger of backlash. Nurture, use, and refinement. Using Gu was one of the 3 important aspects of Gu master cultivation. To get familiar with her gains, Bai Ningbing had to spend a long period of time in practicing them. As such, she was a long way away from being able to use them freely in real battle. But at this time, Bai Ningbing's flaw was effectively concealed. Because she had Ing Wuxia, He Lulan, Tai Bai Yunsheng and Shi Nu beside her. Because of their protection, Bai Ningbing had the time to use her Immortal Killer move unhurriedly. Fang Yuan's information regarding Bai Ningbing was lacking. On one hand, he thought Bai Ningbing was like Tai Bai Yunsheng and He Lulan, whose battle strength rose after receiving benefits from Shadow Sect. On the other hand, Fang Yuan had used Qi Luck sensation many times before and had sensed Bai Ningbing, but he could not know matters concerned with Bai Xiang Grotto Heaven and so on. Fang Yuan had thus greatly underestimated Bai Ningbing's true battle strength. If he knew of the truth, he might not have chosen Tai Bai Yunsheng as the first target, and marked Bai Ningbing instead. But Fang Yuan had always lacked information path methods, so how could he know about Bai Xiang Grotto Heaven? Fang Yuan had been reborn, but he was not all-knowing. Bai Ningbing's gaze could actually freeze any targets in her sight, slowing down their mobility. This was Bai Xiang's method. After Fang Yuan realized the strangeness, he immediately took measures, flying back and concealing his traces. Visibility was very poor in the Licorice Regional Wall. After Fang Yuan flew back, he immediately disappeared from Bai Ningbing's sight. Bai Ningbing clenched her teeth. Fang Yuan was an old fox, seeing through the limits of her move in just a short while. Even with such a trump card, he doesn't force himself to take risks. Unfortunately, we have especially formulated a battle tactic for this. Bai Ningbing felt regret. The move Fang Yuan used to break the Super Gu formation in Eastern Sea was so powerful that it gave chills to Ing Wuxia, Bai Ningbing and the rest. On the way, they had discussed about defensive measures against this method of Fang Yuan. However, Fang Yuan did not use that move the whole time, making the prior preparations of Ing Wuxia and the rest useless. Unfortunately, I have only just obtained Bai Xiang's true inheritance. This killer move has its limits, but other killer moves can be used together with it to make up for this limit. Bai Ningbing had barely been able to activate this killer move. If she tried to activate another immortal killer move on top of this, she was almost certain to fail. Bai Ningbing was not Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan could do many tasks at once and use multiple immortal killer moves at the same time, but Bai Ningbing had very low attainment in this aspect. Fang Yuan had retreated and hidden himself, but he still held the initiative and upper hand. Under this situation, Bai Ningbing could not take the risk. Once she failed, their arrangement would be in disorder, creating a weakness which Fang Yuan could exploit. Bai Ningbing understood Fang Yuan very well. He absolutely would not give up such an exposed weakness. Even Bai Ningbing was in deep admiration of Fang Yuan's ability to grasp opportunities in a fight. Fang Yuan's scales have been frozen by my gaze. Once he recovers, with his speed, it will be difficult for me to lock onto him with my sight. Bai Ningbing pondered. Fang Yuan's burst of speed in ancient sword dragon form was astonishing by itself, adding on sword escape and his sword path Dao marks. Even the rank 7 expert Yi Lui Kun Xing had died at his hands. Bai Ningbing knew she had been able to use her freezing sight earlier because Fang Yuan was unprepared. Now that Fang Yuan was on guard, when he used that astonishing speed again, this immortal killer move's effectiveness would decrease drastically. It seems I can only change my tactics. Bai Ningbing immediately decided. She had no choice but to change. Previously, when Fang Yuan showed his speed, he had almost killed Tai Bai Yunsheng. If Bai Ningbing did not change her tactics and continued to use freezing sight, the one to die might be her. The situation was perilous, Bai Ningbing retreated behind Xianxia while saying to Xianxia, "Protect me, I am going to use that move." Bai Ningbing and Xianxia had formed a new alliance, and with a formidable enemy in front of them, both sides had informed each other of some of their trump cards. Thus, Xianxia understood without needing Bai Ningbing to explain. He nodded solemnly, "Okay, use that move, let us take care of your safety." He immediately commanded Xianxia, "Even if you have to sacrifice yourself, you need to protect Bai Ningbing." Xianxia was loyal to Xianxia, he immediately nodded at this command with no hesitation. "Relax, he has been hit by my freezing sight, according to the flaw you mentioned of the sovereign immortal body. If he does not have a specific method to counter it, he will need about a dozen breaths of time to recover completely." Bai Ningbing spoke with confidence. Xianxia nodded, "That's good, then." He did not doubt Bai Ningbing. Bai Xiang's methods had their own originality. It was not easy to specifically target an immortal killer move. Often, one had to fight numerous times, getting familiar with the immortal killer move, and go through a long period of deduction to create a method that countered the immortal killer move. There was a low probability of Fang Yuan having a method to counter it. But right at this time, in the sights of the five immortals, a white ray of light flashed by. "Careful! It is the dragon breath. Defend, protect Bai Ningbing and Tai Bai Yunsheng." Rays of sword light dragon breath attacked, recreating the previous sword light rain. For a moment, Xianxia and the group had their hands tied dealing with them. Bai Ningbing was using all her concentration in activating her immortal killer move, while Tai Bai Yunsheng was unconscious from the severe injuries. As such, for the remaining three other immortals, the pressure on them had amplified suddenly, and they did not even have enough strength to strike back. Fang Yuan circled around Xianxia and the rest from afar, breathing out dragon breath. Rays of sword light dragon breath shot from all directions towards Xianxia and the others. His sword dragon body was still covered in thin ice. Bai Ningbing's freezing sight was quite effective. Naturally, the main reason was Fang Yuan's sovereign immortal body. Despite transforming into an ancient sword dragon, his Dao marks still did not have repulsion to different Dao marks. This created a disadvantage. Like when Bai Ningbing's freezing sight affected Fang Yuan, it would not be weakened by Fang Yuan's Dao marks, and could strike with all its might. Fortunately, the ancient sword dragon had a tough body and strong vitality, otherwise a human body might have been directly frozen to death. Fang Yuan was breathing dragon breath, suppressing Xianxia and the rest, while quickly recovering. He was influenced by the freezing sight, but healing was also rather easy. Because his Dao marks did not have repulsion, even using mortal methods repeatedly could display effect. It was not like Tai Bai Yunsheng, whom, after being injured, could not be healed easily. Fang Yuan continuously breathed out dragon breath, probing and suppressing Xianxia and the others. He quickly discovered, Bai Ningbing was being heavily protected by Xianxia and the others. Unless he made his way in through brute force, he had no other routes to get to Bai Ningbing. Activating an immortal killer move, Fang Yuan thought heavily. Since she was being so greatly protected by Xianxia and the others, Bai Ningbing was definitely preparing an extraordinary immortal killer move. Thus, as soon as he recovered, he directly dived in. He was not restricted in the Licorice regional wall and could move freely. When he burst with his speed, even Fang Yuan himself was not able to have complete control. It was simply like a white ray of light. Xianxia and the rest did not even have time to call out when Fang Yuan penetrated through their defensive lineup and charged in. Bai Ningbing broke out in cold sweat, almost failing her killer move's activation. He Lu Lan was heavily injured. Her left arm was completely gone and even her left torso was injured. The injuries were so frightening that one could see her ribs. Blood spurted out like a fountain and soon accumulated into a pool below He Lu Lan. The injury was covered with Dao marks, causing the blood to flow unceasingly. If this continued, He Lu Lan would be the first person to die. Under this critical situation, He Lu Lan immediately chose to transform into an immortal zombie. Immortal zombies could bear this level of injury. The warm and bright red blood immediately turned into cold and gloomy green blood. Blood was still flowing outside, but the speed had reduced by countless times. He. Hei Lu Lan knelt on one leg, taking huge gasps of breath, but her lips were curled up. She was actually laughing. On the other hand, Fang Yuan got a peculiar feeling. I was actually hit. Not bad from Hei Lu Lan. The dragon claw he used to rip apart Hei Lu Lan's left arm still had traces of flesh and blood. Right now, this flesh and blood slowly turned into a blood-colored fire, which followed Fang Yuan's dragon claw to his scales. Immortal killer move, flesh blood fire. This fire used flesh and blood as the fuel. As long as there was flesh and blood, the fire wouldn't stop. Without any methods to counter it, it simply would not be extinguished. Moreover, the stronger the flesh and blood were, the brighter and more powerful the fire would become. Fang Yuan's ancient sword dragon transformation had instead become the perfect target for flesh-blood fire. However, Fang Yuan reacted extremely quickly. He immediately dispelled his transformation killer move, and returned to his human form. He activated a time path healing Immortal Gu. Man as before. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1259, Fang Yuan vs. 5, 2 halves. Chapter 1259, Fang Yuan vs. 5, 2 halves. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Over 20 beads of red date immortal essence were expended. The next moment, the blood-colored fire completely disappeared and Fang Yuan went back to his previous state. Sigh. Man as before is effective only on human bodies. When I transform to other living beings, I cannot directly use man as before. This is quite inconvenient. Moreover, man as before has quite a big restriction in terms of time. Fortunately I have my investigative killer move, 3 breaths future vision. Fang Yuan inwardly sighed, as he activated another immortal killer move. Convergence of enslavement and strength path, myriad self. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Tens of thousands of Fang Yuans converged to create a vast human tide that charged towards Xianxia and the rest. How can this be? He actually recovered so quickly. He has already gotten rid of blood flesh fire. Hei Lu Lan was extremely surprised. Fang Yuan's counterattack was too quick, and it still carried strong momentum, making Hei Lu Lan's heart sink to rock bottom. Hei Lu Lan knew Fang Yuan had man as before. But man as before had rather stringent requirements regarding time. Even Fang Yuan would only survive by a hair's breadth. After he was struck, he would have to first discover his state, then dispel his transformation killer move. During this time, he might hesitate before he finally used man as before. Activating this immortal Gu, furthermore, required some time. Under such a situation, Hei Lu Lan thought if it was herself instead of Fang Yuan, it would also be very difficult to get rid of this blood flesh fire. Fang Yuan was not clear of Hei Lu Lan and Bai Ningbing's methods. Likewise, Hei Lu Lan similarly did not know that Fang Yuan had 3 breaths future vision. This investigative killer move could let Fang Yuan see anything wrong that would happen to him 3 breaths earlier. Because of this, Fang Yuan had much more time to react and take action accordingly. In short, Hei Lu Lan was heavily injured but only managed to slightly affect Fang Yuan. Red Date Immortal Essence was consumed, but Fang Yuan was rich and his financial condition was rather good, thus, he did not care about this small expenditure. Immortal Killer Move, Soul Howl. Xianxia howled, countless phantoms of Fang Yuan around him burst at once. Immortal Killer Move, Spike Forest. Anew stamped his right leg, countless spikes rose up from the ground, piercing through thousands of Fang Yuan's phantoms. Then, Anew called out, the earth spikes shot to the air, instantly clearing large amounts of phantoms in the air. This move hit a second stage within, and was extremely effective, almost completely destroying all of Fang Yuan's phantoms. Earth Path Rank 7 Gu Immortal Xianxia, he was the cornerstone in this battle. Without his protection and contribution, how could Xianxia and the rest last until this moment? Your turn next. Fang Yuan transformed back into a sword dragon, laughing sinisterly inwardly. Roar! At this moment, the tiger year beast beside him roared and suddenly retreated. This ancient year beast had been summoned by Fang Yuan, although it had been fighting all along. Xianxia and the rest were on guard against it, thus it was not able to assist a lot and instead suffered many injuries. The tiger year beast was not loyal to Fang Yuan. This could not compare to Xianxia's soul beast summoning. Once the year beast suffered severe injuries, it immediately retreated, penetrating space and returning to the river of time. But it did not matter. Immortal killer move, year beast summoning. Fang Yuan activated this killer move again. This time he summoned a sheep-shaped ancient year beast. Although year beast summoning could only summon one year beast each time, there were many year beasts in the river of time. If one left, he just had to summon another. The sheep ancient year beast stampeded towards Xianxia and the others. Xianxia gave a deep roar, his body suddenly bulged, turning into a giant that was as big as the year beast. He stood stably and countered it, using his profound fighting techniques to throw the year beast to the ground. Boom! The sheep ancient year beast fell to the ground, causing the ground to tremor for a while. The year beast quickly stood up, and furiously charged towards Xianxia with its horns. Xianxia sidestepped smoothly while grabbing the curved sheep horns at the same time. The two giant beings tangled together, at a deadlock for the time being. On Fang Yuan's end, the amount of dragon breath he used was reducing. He was starting to feel a burning pain in his throat, as if his throat was about to emit smoke. Dragon breath was the ancient sword dragon's strongest weapon. Even a true ancient sword dragon would not be able to continue using dragon breath more than 20 to 30 times. However, Fang Yuan had already used his dragon breath over 100 times, reaching the limits of his physical body. If he continued breathing out, his throat would be damaged, and the sword-like dragon breath's power would reduce by a huge extent. The battle had lasted up until now. The tiger year beast had retreated from severe injuries, and now Fang Yuan was showing some signs of fatigue. Although he had become a rank 7 Gu immortal, with red date immortal essence, his battle strength rising sharply and reaching the upper level among rank 7s, the enemies he faced were also not minor characters. Hei Lu Lan was a formidable person with the great strength true martial physique. She had annexed a strength path blessed land in Jade Pot Mountain, her Dao marks increasing by a lot. At the same time, she also had blazing heaven demonist true inheritance along with her immortal Gu. Bai Ningbing had the northern dark ice soul physique, and had changed into the mysterious dragon man, grasping Bai Xiang grotto heaven and obtaining Bai Xiang's true inheritance. There was no need to say anything about Xianxia. He was one of the main split souls of Spectral Soul. He once had the 11th extreme physique. He was the final hope of Shadow Sect, with astonishing attainment in Soul Path, and although his attainment in other paths was unclear, they should not be low. At least, it was the case for Luck Path. Xianxia was a rockman. This race innately had rich Earth Path Dao marks, and with Xianxia cultivating Earth Path mainly, it could be they complemented one another well. The most useless was Tai Bai Yunsheng, but even so, this old guy was becoming sharper as he grew older. He mainly cultivated Time Path, but perfectly dual cultivated Cloud Path as well, and with the immortal Gu on him, his Cloud Ring's defensive ability was quite remarkable. Although the majority of these 5 was rank 6, they were similar to Fang Yuan when he was rank 6, with battle strength that reached rank 7 level. And right now, these elites with outstanding disposition had allied and were working together, adding on the constant support of Shadow Sect's remaining resources and methods emerging one after another. They were stronger than alone Yi Lui Kun Xing and were even more difficult to handle. When Gu Immortals battled, they could not rush things. Because there were many types of immortal Gu, immortal killer moves were endless in number. Some were extremely mystical, some were powerful and unconstrained, some were tyrannical, and some were sinister and strange. Fang Yuan was fighting alone against 5, and was firmly holding an advantage, while Xianxia and the others were exhausted by just dealing with his attacks, and were unable to turn the situation around. Damn it, he has not used that move even now. Xia thought as green immortal zombie blood flowed down from his nose. Xia wiped the blood using the back of his hand, but the green blood flowed down again. Damn it! I have been using immortal killer moves repeatedly, and have been bearing so much backlash that even this immortal zombie body is showing signs of reaching its limits. Even I am like this, the others must be in even worse circumstances. Xia gazed at his allies, and saw they were all pale and their states were worsening. Fang Yuan was unrestricted here, but they were not. They not only had to steady themselves constantly, resisting the repulsion and attraction force in the regional wall, they also had to fight Fang Yuan at the same time, using many immortal killer moves which caused heavy losses to their immortal apertures. My side has Shadow Sect's remaining resources, it is normal for our battle strength to rise rapidly. But, Fang Yuan's battle strength also rose so quickly. This speed is too astonishing. Even us 5 allied together are not his match. The more Xia thought, the more apprehensive he felt towards Fang Yuan. And in the depths of this apprehension was a trace of fear. Right, it was fear. Xia was beginning to feel afraid. He could not help but admit Fang Yuan was strong, he was even more afraid of Fang Yuan's growth speed. Bai Xiang, activate. Bai Ningbing, who had been preparing the killer move all along, suddenly gave a cry, a soaring aura rose up from her body. Xia was immediately filled with joy as he looked at Bai Ningbing, you finally succeeded. Bai Ningbing's appearance had a great change right now. In the blink of an eye, she had transformed into a 5-meter giant. She had 3 heads, 6 arms and bare feet, her body was covered in ice armor and frost aura flowed around her, like a long ribbon was revolving around her. She stood on 2 frost clouds that emitted light hints of blue. Immortal killer move, Bai Xiang. Fang Yuan, come fight me. Bai Ningbing gave a shout, and suddenly sped up like a white light passing through the air. She had changed her defensive stance, taking the initiative to attack. Let our old and new enmity be resolved today. Fang Yuan's dragon eyes narrowed, and without dodging, he charged head-on. A silver light and a white light passed by each other. The inertia from their speed was too powerful, whether it be Bai Ningbing or Fang Yuan, they each flew far away. A light injury. Fang Yuan slightly looked down and saw a long but shallow sword mark on his body, the dragon scales along the sword mark were all cut, some even broke through the dragon skin, letting out some blood. By contrast, Bai Ningbing was much more miserable. There was a hole in her chest, 3 of her arms were destroyed, and almost half of her body was gone. But she did not bleed, cold air flowed on massively, restoring her back to normal in a blink of an eye. Bai Xiang. This immortal killer move is rumored to be undying. Even if there is only a nail-sized fragment remaining, the user can immediately revive and recover back to normal. Because after the Bai Xiang transformation, the body is no longer a flesh and blood body, instead it becomes a certain mystical life form. Xia was inwardly excited. Sure enough, as the battle went on, Bai Ningbing's performance was like Xia estimated. She was not Fang Yuan's match. But relying on the Bai Xiang transformation's special characteristics, she could immediately recover back to normal. Most of Fang Yuan's attention was absorbed in fighting with Bai Ningbing. As the battle continued, even Fang Yuan felt exhausted, after all, his was a flesh and blood body, while Bai Ningbing was still energetic and lively. Just as Fang Yuan intended to give up on Bai Ningbing and targeting Xia and the rest. It is time. Xia suddenly cried out, auras of countless goo worms rose from his body. He looked at Fang Yuan and spoke. Led soul into dream. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1260, Lead Soul into Dream. Chapter 1260, Lead Soul into Dream. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Fang Yuan got a shock when he heard Wuxia say, "Lead soul into dream." Lead soul into dream was a rare and powerful dream path immortal killer move. In the Battle of Tian Mountain, Wuxia's lead soul into dream had made even heaven overseeing Tower Lord fall asleep, trapped within a dream realm. Fang Yuan was also struck by this move in the Battle of Tian Mountain. If not for heaven's will working secretly, he would have surely died. In this current time period, Dream Path Immortal Gu were extremely rare, let alone Dream Path killer moves. One skill to dominate all, facing lead soul into dream, Gu immortals were basically defenseless. Fang Yuan was not an exception. He had unraveled dream, but he also had the sovereign immortal body. Facing lead soul into dream, even if he spent only an instant in the dream realm, it was very likely there could be various changes during that instant, and he might even die. Fang Yuan immediately soared up, retreating without hesitation. While retreating, he had doubts in his mind. Back then, Wuxia's lead soul into dream was very powerful because of many immortal Gu as well as the amplification from the 11th extreme physique. Right now, could Wuxia have those immortal Gu to form lead soul into dream? Fang Yuan did not know the exact details, but he was aware that Wuxia's strength path immortal zombie body absolutely lowered the power of this move by several levels. Fang Yuan quickly got a long distance away from Wuxia and the rest, but still did not see himself falling into a dream realm. Was Wuxia only trying to trick me? Fang Yuan just had this thought, when the scenery in front of him changed. Southern border, in his first life. Qing Mao Mountain was already destroyed from Bai Ningbing's self-detonation. Fang Yuan threw himself in with a merchant caravan, earning primeval stones while continuing his cultivation. The merchant caravan had reached a certain valley, when suddenly, two groups of bandits rushed from in front and behind. Kill! Protect the goods! The caravan was in a great uproar. In an instant, yells resounded throughout the valley. One side was the demonic path bandits, while the other was the caravan escorting the goods. The young Fang Yuan was mixed in the merchant caravan, clenching his teeth, panicking at the sudden ambush. This is a dream realm. I am trapped in a dream realm. The confusion from just entering the dream realm disappeared quickly, and Fang Yuan immediately prepared to activate Unravel Dream. However, right at this time, he inexplicably exited the dream realm and returned to reality, his ancient dragon body still in the regional wall. What's going on? Fang Yuan just had this question, when his vision changed once again. He found he had once again entered a dream realm. This dream was a continuation of the previous dream. In the valley, the righteous and demonic sides were fighting a bitter battle. Strange, there should not be any bandit hideouts here. The young master of the merchant caravan was looking down from his carriage in the center, puzzled. The steward beside him was maintaining defense while replying, "Right, this trade route is an old route, who knows where these mountain bandits came from." The young master snorted, "The strongest demonic path Gu masters among them are only rank 2, our defense is rock solid, we don't need to fear them." Young master is right. We will make sure these bandits remain here forever. The steward gave a malicious smile. Right at this time, a rumbling noise came from above them. The young master, the steward and others quickly looked above. The sight immediately caused a great fright. Countless boulders were rolling down from above the valley. The caravan was right at the base of a cliff, and these giant boulders were falling down right towards them. The power was not inferior to a rank 2 Gu master's attack. Countless figures could be seen above the cliff. They were all mortals, but with meticulous planning and correct battle tactics, these mortals showcased the battle strength of rank 2 Gu masters. Quick, retreat. The young master's face was pale. It is too late. The steward called out miserably. The boulders smashed onto the caravan's Gu masters. In an instant, the merchant caravan suffered many casualties, and the demonic path side's morale was greatly raised. Damn it! Fang Yuan shook his head fiercely, escaping from the dream realm again. This is indeed lead soul into dream, but it is incomplete. it can send me into a dream realm now and again, but it can't keep me trapped in there. However, this is enough to pose a huge threat to me. Fang Yuan's heart sank. Xianxia and the rest were vigilantly looking at their surroundings, but even after guarding for a while, they did not see Fang Yuan. There were also no attacks coming towards them. He retreated. He Lulan spoke, somewhat disbelievingly. Bai Ningbing gazed at Xianxia. Xianxia heaved a long sigh, such a pity. After the Battle of Tian Mountain, Xianxia had secretly reconstructed Li's soul into dream. During the time in Eastern Sea, Xianxia gave Immortal Gu to He Lulan and others. He naturally had even more gains. But even until now, he was only barely able to assemble Li's soul into dream. Xianxia had intended to use Li's soul into dream when Fang Yuan activated that trump card. However, Fang Yuan did not use that trump card at all. Fang Yuan would need a long time to activate that trump card, which would give Xianxia a very good opportunity to make a move. If Fang Yuan was struck by Li's soul into dream at that time, he would be trapped in a dream realm. Even if it was only for an instant, it would still lead to failure in activating the Immortal Killer move. The stronger an Immortal Killer move was, the greater the injury the Gu Immortal would have to bear after they fail in activating it. There was no doubt that if Fang Yuan was trapped in the dream realm when he activated that killer move, he would fail and suffer a severe backlash. Xianxia explained it in detail. Bai Ningbing, He Lulan and the rest also felt regret. However, in the situation earlier, Xianxia had no choice but to use Li's soul into dream prematurely. If he still did not use it, Fang Yuan's successful attack would result in a qualitative change, causing the battle situation to shift greatly, which would finally result in their deaths. Xianxia had a very sharp and accurate judgment of the situation. Looks like Fang Yuan won't be able to attack for the moment. We should leave quickly. Lead soul into dream is not complete, its effect will continue to decrease with time. Xianxia gave the command, the 5 immortals set off immediately. However, they had not walked far when Fang Yuan once again recovered and attacked. The dream realm's interference was becoming smaller and smaller. Fang Yuan was not willing to let Xianxia and the others slip away from right under his nose, so he immediately began his chase. Tai Bai Yunsheng was still unconscious. The 4 immortals were harried by Fang Yuan. It was already difficult to move in the regional wall, but with Fang Yuan's interference, it became even more difficult for them to move forward. Careful! Suddenly, a familiar voice came from behind Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan could not react in time and only heard a muffled sound as stone debris hit him on the head. Uncle Big Beard, you saved me, thank you. Fang Yuan saw Uncle Big Beard nearby, and immediately reacted. Just now, he was almost hit by a falling boulder, but Uncle Big Beard had acted in time, destroying the giant boulder before it could reach Fang Yuan. Kid, don't be so hungry for battle, protect yourself properly. Uncle Big Beard said with a concerned tone. Right at this moment, from the center of the caravan came the caravan steward's sharp scream, "Men, come quickly and protect young master." Out of nowhere, 2 rank 3 demonic path Gu masters had already charged into the center and were surrounding the owner of the merchant caravan, that young master who had once humiliated Fang Yuan. The young master was in a dangerous situation, even the righteous path Gu masters were afraid. Wait here, I will go help. Uncle Big Beard spoke this before quickly rushing to the center. The dream realm appeared again and again. Fang Yuan was having a tough time. The dream realm greatly influenced him, and he was only able to display 20 to 30% of his battle strength. But looking at the battle situation, it was much more unfavorable to Xianxia and the rest. They were clearly able to sense that the dream realm's influence to Fang Yuan was becoming smaller. And they were still unable to leave the regional wall. All of you go ahead, I will hold him back. At the crucial moment, Xianxia stood up. Immortal Killer move, land boundary. His whole body emitted frightening cracking sounds, as cracks started appearing everywhere on his body. At the same time, with him at the center, an enormous surrounding area of space underwent a mysterious change, being cut off from the space further out. Fang Yuan wanted to retreat, but at the critical moment, the dream realm started, making him miss the chance to escape the range of the killer move. Fang Yuan sent out dragon breath, but the sword-like dragon breath disappeared like smoke before even flying 5 to 6 steps of distance. Fang Yuan charged with his dragon body, but was actually unable to leave. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible.